Before we begin, just a quick note. This podcast is produced by qualified financial professionals and is intended to share general information and insights to help expats better understand common financial topics. However, everyone's circumstances are different and regulations can vary by country, so nothing discussed should be taken as personal financial, tax, or investment advice. If you're considering making financial decisions based on anything covered in this episode, we recommend seeking professional advice tailored to your individual situation.
You're listening to Expert Money Matters with me, Georgina. At Chase Buchanan, our goal is to provide total clarity in an uncertain global landscape. To help you stay connected and updated wherever you are, we've adapted our weekly market update email into this convenient audio format. Here is your update for the 8th of April 2026.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where in the world you are joining us from. This week, the phrase I keep returning to is geopolitical stagflation scare, and I think it captures the mood rather well. What began as a conflict in the Middle East that markets initially hoped would be contained has, over the past week, evolved into something that is now reshaping expectations about growth, inflation, and monetary policy simultaneously. That is a particularly uncomfortable combination, and financial markets have responded accordingly. Let us start with the headline that has driven everything else: the disruption to shipping through the Strait of Hormuz following the escalation of the Iran conflict. Brent crude has surged, with some analysts now placing forecasts at above $100 per barrel if the situation is not resolved quickly. For context, that represents a significant jump from where we were just weeks ago, and it is feeding directly into inflation expectations on both sides of the Atlantic. European natural gas prices have risen sharply as well, up roughly 60% over the past month. For expats living in continental Europe, that is not just a number on a screen. It is likely to translate into a meaningful increase in household energy bills heading into next winter. The broader equity picture has deteriorated sharply. US markets are down roughly 8% since the turn of the month, and European equities are off by around 10%. There is a very clear risk-off rotation underway. The one area of the equity market that has held up, and in fact done rather well, is the energy and defence sector. If your pension or long-term investment portfolio carries meaningful exposure to names such as BP, Shell or Exxon, you may find it is providing something of a cushion right now. For those in growth and technology-heavy funds, the combination of rising yields and higher input costs has created a more difficult environment. On that subject, gilt yields are worth flagging specifically for our UK-based clients and UK expats. The 10-year UK gilt yield has topped 5% this week, which is the highest level since 2008. On the face of it, that is troubling for existing bond fund holders, since higher yields mean lower prices on the bonds already held. However, there is a silver lining for those entering the market now, particularly those approaching retirement and considering annuities. Prospective yields on new fixed income positions are meaningfully better than they were even 6 months ago. For our American clients, the strengthening dollar is the most immediate practical consideration. A trade-weighted gain of around 2.5% sounds modest, but across significant cross-border asset holdings or regular currency conversions, it compounds meaningfully. If you have been deferring a transfer or a rebalancing decision, the current rate environment may be worth a conversation with your advisor. On the tax side, it is also worth flagging that the interaction between the foreign earned income exclusion, now set at $130,000 for the 2025 tax year, and the alternative minimum tax continues to catch higher earners off guard. For those earning above $200,000, the foreign tax credit is increasingly the more efficient route. And if you have not reviewed your filing approach recently, this is the kind of structural question that is worth getting ahead of rather than discovering at filing time. On the central bank side, one of the more striking developments this week has been the reversal in rate expectations. Markets had spent much of the earlier part of the year pricing in cuts from both the Bank of England and the European Central Bank. That narrative has now flipped. With energy costs surging and inflation expectations rising, both central banks are now expected to hike by 25 basis points in April. Despite the fact that underlying economic growth is weakening, UK GDP was essentially flat in January and February, and the Eurozone is flirting with a technical recession. The combination of stalling growth and rising prices is precisely what economists mean when they use the word stagflation, and it is a scenario that central banks find genuinely difficult to navigate. As things stand, the honest message is that we are in a period of elevated uncertainty, and it would be unwise to pretend otherwise. What we would caution against is making reactive decisions based on short-term market noise. Drawdown periods like this, while uncomfortable, are a normal feature of long-term investing. The key questions to be asking are whether your portfolio remains appropriately diversified across geographies and sectors, whether your currency exposure reflects your actual spending needs, and whether your overall financial plan accounts for an inflationary environment that may persist for longer than earlier forecasts suggested. We will, of course, continue to monitor developments closely and keep you informed as the situation evolves.
And that wraps up this week's Market Snapshot. If you'd prefer to get the information before it's published here, you can sign up for the update directly on our website. Just visit chasebuchanan.com and subscribe and get the update delivered straight to your inbox, giving you a head start on the week. Thanks for listening to Expert Money Matters. I'm Georgina. Join us next time as we explore money matters for your life abroad.